Hey team, so today we're going to make turkey soup. And so I'm going to teach you kind of my my methods of how I make a soup without a recipe. And so here I have a bunch of leftover turkey from Thanksgiving. And so obviously you're not going to get super nice cuts out of it, but it's mostly dark meat, which is really, really good and shouldn't shred too badly in a liquid like a soup. I have my carrots, onions, and celery. Normally a normal mirepoix will have twice as many onions as carrots and celery, but with a soup you don't want that many onions. So I try and do about even, maybe a little bit more onion. And if you notice, my proportions are about even, with my meat being a little bit heavier, and that's a pretty good place to be, because you want a little bit in every bite, but you want to make sure that you always get the star of the show in every bite, which would be your meat. Also, you want to make sure that it's the proper size. So you want to think about a spoon, and you want to think about like how big each piece is when you eat it. You don't want to have some big honking piece of chicken or turkey on there, and that is the only thing that you can eat at one time, or you have to like unhinge your mouth like a snake to eat it. I also have some thyme, which we're going to add at the end. I have some minced garlic. And so we're going to add these two together. So we're going to add the garlic and the onions. You can hear the dog hacking in the background. And then we're going to add these two together because they have about the same cooking time. And we're going to start from there. So we're just going to add some butter and go. See you at the range. So in here we have half a stick of butter, which is 4 tablespoons. I have my onions and my garlic. And I know you're saying to yourself, Zachman, that is way too much butter. I have 2 things to say. One, there is no better smell and taste than butter and onions. And 2, when cooking in a restaurant, you're occasion cooking. You're not just like cooking at home. If you're making this at home and you want to stay healthier, you could cut back the butter a little bit. But we are cooking to wow people. So I am going to let these sweat down, which means no color. So I'm going to turn it down to about 4 on the range, which is the magic spot on this range. And you can hear the noise already going down because we're using our observation skills by looking and smelling and hearing. And so we're just going to let those sweat now until everything is translucent and nice. And that is the reason that I could add my garlic now. If I thought I was going to brown it, then I would saute my onions and then add my garlic afterwards. But because we're just sweating the whole thing, I might turn it up just slightly. It should be fun. So I'll see you in a couple minutes. So we are looking lovely and translucent. And at this point, I'm going to add the carrots and celery because they have the same cooking time. And our goal here is to really just keep cooking down the onions until they kind of just melt into the soup. And then the carrots and celery, obviously, we want to cook them until fork tender. So there's no crunch, but they also aren't overcooked. Now, my suggestion is when you sweat carrots and celery is to put the flame a little lower than you think is necessary. And then also put a lid on it. You can see it's already trapping the steam, and that steam is going to help cook these firm vegetables, which are sometimes, if you just saute them, like I see students all the time browning them when they don't even mean to brown them because they're like, chef, they're not cooking, or they take too long to cook. So low temperature, lid, let them go low and slow, stir them periodically. See you in a couple minutes. So they've been cooking for a little while, and I've been checking them and stirring them. See how much steam has built up and how much water is dripping off the lid. And so I'm just gonna give them a little taste. I like to taste the carrots. I feel like it gives me a better sense of if they're done or not. I'm gonna find the biggest one. And I know you can use a fork to try this, but I think that tasting it is definitely the way to go. So they're pretty much done. I mean, they're like 95% done, which is perfect because they're going to cook a little bit more in the liquid. I'm going to grab my turkey now. And actually, I'm going to shut this off for a minute. And I'm going to show you why. So this turkey is already cooked. The last thing I want to do is overcook it, because all that is going, the more that you cook this turkey, the more it's just going to shred and become like turkey shrapnel throughout your soup. So I'm going to add almost all my turkey. I can add a little bit more later. I'm going to add some Spaetzle. And if you're like, how did you make the Spaetzle? Well, I just made a video on how to make that. And so I'm adding about even parts Spaetzle to how much like carrots or celery, like one of those I had, to make it all kind of even. And then I know I don't have enough of this, but I have extra turkey stock that I made from the carcass. And you can see like how gelatinous that is from all the gelatin coming out of the bones and the muscle fibers. And actually, it just covered. Although I have a feeling once I stir it around, it's not going to cover anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some chicken stock from the freezer. You could use base. I mean, if your stock is like has a punch to it, like if it's really potent, you could add a little water if you needed to. But I mean, obviously the cold turkey stock just stopped the cooking process, so we're okay there. And actually, that looks pretty good. I mean, maybe a little bit. And this is where we kind of adjust. Do we need more turkey? Ooh, look at that big piece of turkey. We need to cut that boy down. Do we? Yeah, I don't think I need any. Do I need more turkey? Do I need more Spaetzle? Do I want to saute off more vegetables? I don't think so. Like, it's looking pretty good. And so all that I'm going to do now, I might add more Spaetzle because I'm crazy for Spaetzle. So I'm going to add a little bit more. And who doesn't like more noodles in their soup? So I'm going to add a little bit more. To be honest, when I did the video, oh yeah, that looks much better. So when I did the video, I only made 3 eggs because I was intending on using it for the soup. And then I went back and I made 3 more eggs because I thought I needed a little bit more, and also I like to use Spaetzle. So I've been seasoning this along the way. I should have been filming that. So it needs, obviously the stock is not seasoned, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of salt. I'm gonna bring it up to a simmer, and then we're gonna thicken this slightly with a roux. And I know that a lot of times when you make a recipe, you do that at the beginning, like you use the butter that you use to saute the vegetables in. Well, I mean, when you're kind of doing it on the fly or just making up a soup, sometimes you do it at the end. So let me show you that process. So I am going to put this on a medium high, bring it back to a simmer, and I'll see you then. So this is coming up to a simmer, and you can see that all of my Spaetzle rose to the surface, and that's okay because it's still a proper amount. I did add a little bit more liquid to cover. I made a roux, which is 50% butter, 50% flour by weight, and I cooked it off to make sure that it's not floury. I keep some in the fridge at all times. So if I don't use all this, that's okay. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna use my bucket that I had my chicken stock in, or turkey stock, and I'm gonna use about half of this roux. This roux is 1 stick of butter, so it's 4 ounces. And look, we're coming to a simmer. And 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of butter. I'm going to take some of my liquid from here and I'm going to pour it in with my roux. And the reason that I'm doing this is because it's going to be really hard to stir this roux into this soup without busting up all the ingredients. So I'm going to use a whisk, and I'm just going to get, and so, I don't know if you can see that. I'm just gonna, and it's almost instantly thickening up and getting uber thick. But what I am doing is I am hydrating the starch granules that will hopefully make it easier for me. I'm just gonna pour off some of the liquid and not the Spaetzle. I'm gonna whisk this in. And I'm gonna turn this off for a second. And And I'm going to pour this in and whisk that in to my main soup. Now, when this returns to a simmer, let me use something a little bit more gentle. So I'm just going to stir that in. And by doing this, I'm not going to get lumps. And so once it comes back up to a simmer, we'll see how thick it is. And then we can decide to add more or if we're pretty good right there. I'll see you in a minute. So I added some more roux to it, and I think it looks pretty good. You want your soup to have a little bit of body to it, so it just coats the spoon. You don't want it to be as thick as a gravy, which it's not, but it's about halfway to gravy. Because, I mean, other than me, no one wants to drink gravy. And then all the Spaetzle are floating to the top, but if you were to stir it around, you can see that there's plenty of chunks of stuff inside. And then I also just stirred in my thyme, which you can see little green flecks in there. And don't mince your thyme too much. You can see that there's whole leaves, and that's good. If you mince it too much, it'll turn brown, and then it won't look very good. Okay, I'll see you in class.